Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen. Not going to sit here and make any excuses. From what I've seen, you guys have been eager to hear another video, and a lot of you guys have been mentioning the topic of NPCs or non-player characters, and I've discussed that topic quite a bit, right? And I was trying to think of a new angle to discuss. Now, let's assume that NPCs exist, okay? What is the one thing that is required if that is the case? That would be a means for data to be transferred between wherever the source is and the meatbag machine that is the NPC. And that got me thinking, what kind of technology or what kind of process that we know of would allow that to happen naturally? Okay? And that got me thinking very heavily about Nikola Tesla. Okay? And Tesla, all of his research dealt with how the Earth is a realm, not necessarily a physical, tangible reality, but a realm. And that understanding lied very heavily on the ether and how that ether operated inside of this system. Now, what few people realize is Tesla didn't have the modern heliocentric concept of what the Earth is in his mind as the foundation of Earth. He constantly refers to Earth as a realm, which leads me to believe that he himself came to the realization that this reality we're living in, even as pervasive as the idea may be, is not material, i.e. is not solid, as much as everything that we touch and see, as pervasive as that illusion is, it isn't real, okay? And that is a very key, fundamental thing to understand before we move forward here, is that the NPC, like your computer, needs a means to receive data via Wi-Fi like your computer would, and that is the ether around us. Now, one of our new subscribers had a very interesting question pertaining to NPCs, and he brought up a book called Baron Trump's Grand Adventures, okay? And I thought that was very interesting too, because we all know I like to discuss politics, right? And we all know how much it's divided people on this channel. It's amazing how many subscribers I'll lose just for mentioning his name, right? But what I find extremely interesting is the more and more I started thinking about this NPC topic, the more and more I realized everything that we have discussed over the last year is all starting to tie together. And it's not like I planned it this way. It's not like I wanted it to coalesce into this, but it has. All right? And this is where we're going to go from here. Now that we understand that NPCs are 100% dependent on a means of receiving and transmitting data, whether it be between each other or between the source and themselves. Now, that means, in my mind, would be ether, okay? We're going to have to keep this in mind because it's fundamental for where we're going to wrap everything up at the end here. I'm going to introduce a new concept to you right now that we haven't really talked about too much, but I think it's tantamount to understanding how everything is about to unfold in front of our eyes. Now, I'm sure some of you are familiar with Operation Looking Glass. Basically, Operation Looking Glass is a program that was developed by the U.S. government, and it took people who were very sensitive when it came to having psychic abilities, okay? Now, this has been funded by the U.S. government. You don't have to believe that this stuff is real, but the government's invested enough money into it that makes me believe that it's definitely tangible. And as somebody that practices lucid dreaming I can tell you for a fact that astral projection is something that can take place, although it is very, very difficult to achieve. Now, what this program did is it took people and trained them to literally project themselves to a different location inside of this realm and retrieve data from that location in real time, come back from whatever, their astral projection state, and be able to give that data to their handlers. So as an example, right, I myself would go lie down in a sensory deprivation tank, and I would use whatever means myself as an individual uses to achieve this state of astral projection. Now, if I'm familiar with an area, it's a lot easier for me to achieve this state. If you want me to go into a room, right, it's better that I know that room and I'm familiar with it than it being a completely foreign space, right? So for example, you put me in a sensory deprivation tank and there's an office across the hall that you did all of my pre-briefing in, right? And you tell me, I'm putting you in the sensory deprivation tank and your goal is to project yourself into this office and find out what's on this piece of paper that I'm going to leave in here. I've never seen this piece of paper before. I don't know what's on this piece of paper. I lie down in that tank, I do my thing, I come back, and I write down exactly what's on that piece of paper. Now, you might think that this is astonishing and unbelievable, but there's cases and evidence and case studies of this over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it actually spun off into the hit TV series Stranger Things. That's what that entire show is based on, is a real government program, okay? And one that's probably still functioning to this day. We're going to get to that one later, okay? So, let's take this one step further. Let's imagine that this entire system, this realm, is running on some sort of program, right? Imagine if you could project yourself into the future and see possible outcomes, probability of events that could or could not happen based on actions that are yet to be determined. But if you have enough people doing this, you can see enough probabilities and start to discern what actions affect which probability chain and ultimately steer yourself to the outcome that you desire, right? And that's exactly what this program has been doing. And I think a key to this program's success was the fundamental understanding of Tesla's work. Now, why is all of this important? Well, because it all coalesces around one thing. There's a theory that's been floating around that Donald Trump or his organization knows the QAnon movement, whatever, that whole group of people. It seems as though they know what's going to happen before it happens. And there has been so many coincidences about them predicting events that are impossible to predict, about being down to the exact date that things are going to be released a year and a half, 2 years before they're even freaking known to occur. And there's so many of these coincidences that it is mathematically impossible for this to be a joke, for this to be a live action role play at this point. It is mathematically impossible. You can have whatever beliefs you want, but I'm telling you, it is mathematically impossible, and you can call me crazy for saying it, but it is what it is. Now, how did a man like Donald Trump, who has managed to reach the tip of the power structure inside of New York City before even becoming president, how does a man like this survive 3.5 years of unadulterated hate and attack against him, his family, and everything that he has ever touched as an individual without something backfiring on him? I wouldn't be able to do it. I know sure as fact Trump is not as clean as the evidence that's being turned up shows, okay? But what happens if Trump and Trump's organization is tapping in to the same operation that was launched by DARPA? What if they're using Looking Glass to formulate their plan and their means of survival? What if everything that we're seeing right now has been orchestrated from Jump Street? Now, all of this may seem freaking implausible as hell. But we're going to get to one key point right here. And this is what I think people need to start paying attention to, and they need to realize. Donald Trump's uncle was the first person to gain access to Nikola Tesla's lifelong work, journals, all his papers, all his evidentiary finding, absolutely everything. It was Donald Trump's uncle, okay? DARPA developed this entire Operation Looking Glass fiasco on the coattails of all of that research, all right? Do you think it's any coincidence that Donald Trump's uncle had these government ties, and then all these years later down the road, Donald Trump happens to be chosen as the person to go up against Hillary Clinton? We're getting into a lot of speculation here, and I understand that, and it may piss a lot of you guys off, but there's no doubt in my mind that all of this ties together, because I've talked about all of these topics for a year for absolutely no reason, and they all tie together. They just do. There's no way around that. These are the topics I decided to talk about because I was interested in them, right? But who am I to say that it's not preordained that this is what we're talking about, because it all ties together, right? So if Donald Trump is actually using this Operation Looking Glass, it explains how he's managed to stay 1, 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of everything that's been going on. Now, the fact that Q constantly says future proves past. Future proves past. So what Q will do is he'll have a post that was posted a year and a half ago with a random date on it, right? And then a year and a half later, on that date, some of the biggest news that anybody's ever imagined will drop. The last one was the IG report. How? How are you doing that unless you know what's going to happen beforehand? And now you're asking me, if they can read the future, if Operation Looking Glass can look into the future and discern these events, then why is it that the enemies haven't already used this operation to achieve their goal? And this is where things become very important, because it gets back to the NPC topic, right? So the reason there is no predetermined future, the reason why it's all a probability chart, is because of people like me and you that are free-thinking individuals that are not non-player characters, all right? And the more and more information that you and I have about what's going on and what's going to happen in the future, based on hints and clues and stuff that we've been spoon-fed and dripped through the media, etc., 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 it influences that river of probability flow. So, by manipulating certain events, certain small things, you can change the course of the future to flow in the direction you want. Now, for a long time, things were flowing exactly how the powers that should not be wanted them to, right? And then all of a sudden, a switch flicks, and people like you and me start receiving information that slowly starts waking us up, right? Now, this is where things get even more interesting. Everything around us is a means to transmit information. The ether that is around us transmits information on a regular basis, right? And what is the most infectious thing known to humankind? Known to anything that lives, anything that operates. It's a virus, all right? And the strongest virus is an idea. And once an idea is implanted, it is impossible to destroy it. What happens when a virus or an idea is so powerful that it corrupts the very programming that the system is running off of? You run into a situation like they had in the Matrix with Agent Smith. Agent Smith, although he was an NPC, he was compelled by this idea, by this virus, to ignore his programming. And in turn, it brings down the whole system around him. That is exactly what we are witnessing right now. By manipulating and inserting an idea that was ultimately found out through astral projection and all of this other stuff, Operation Looking Glass, you can bring information back from the future, right? Trickle it into the present and change the flow of probability to achieve the result that you want. And the more and more you do this, the stronger and stronger that virus, that idea, that drip of information becomes, to the point where everything is influenced by it. That's exactly what we're watching now. I'm not sure who's pulling the strings. I'm not sure if Trump sides even the good side on this one, right? But this is what I see happening. You can agree with me or disagree with me, but everything that we have talked about over the course of this channel's existence can be surmised in this one video. God bless. Have a wonderful new year. And you will be seeing my face a lot more frequently than you have been. PayPal.me/morlog Morning Digest. And I'll talk to you guys later.